The 2019 UIM F1H2O World Championship marks the 36th year of the world's premier powerboat racing series, and the season kicks off in a brand new venue on the tour, Dammam, Saudi Arabia, marking the first Grand Prix to be raced in the kingdom in 15 years. Bordered by the Red Sea in the west and the Gulf waters in the east, Saudi Arabia has by nature an intimate connection with the sea, and Dammam is the perfect setting for the Grand Prix of Saudi Arabia. One of the largest cities in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Dammam is the capital of the kingdom's eastern province, and it is a major administrative center for the Saudi oil industry. Dammam is a city designed upon the principles of modern urban planning. And while the city boasts a long history and rich traditions, it is also a sophisticated and forward-looking metropolis with a busy and colorful commercial scene, dotted with busy shopping venues, not to mention excellent eateries, restaurants, and a refined local cuisine. If there's one thing the locals in Dammam loved, it was the F1H2O boats and drivers who came here for the first time in 15 years. Crowds flocked to the race area to take pictures and selfies, and even Saudi royalty was in attendance to enjoy and welcome the UIM F1H2O series. Now let's take a quick look back at last year's season. The 2018 season was Victory Team's Alex Carella's to defend, having won his fourth world title the year before. But in the first race of 2018 in Portimao, Portugal, it was Sean Torrente who started the season off with an emphatic win in his quest to claim a first ever UIM F1H2O World title. But in round two, Eric Stark of Sweden, who barely made it on the driver roster that year, won the Grand Prix of London, and then after joining Team Abu Dhabi, took another win in Evian, France, which ended in a Team Abu Dhabi 1-2-3 on the podium. Eric Stark shot to the top of the world standings ahead of round 4 in Jiangnan, China, but he was unable to make it 3 in a row as Torrente struck back to win the Grand Prix of Jiangnan in yet another Team Abu Dhabi podium shutdown. Alex Carella was experiencing a dismal defense of his title, unable to finish 3 out of 4 races. In the first ever Grand Prix in Ahmedabad, India, Torrente made it 2 in a row, taking the world standings lead. The big surprise in Ahmedabad was Marit Stromoy, who maintained her second place qualifying finish to come in runner-up on the podium, breaking the Team Abu Dhabi and CTIC F1 Shenzhen, China podium dominance. It was a disastrous race for Philippe Chiappe, however, a collision with Duarte Benavente, ending both drivers' races and effectively extinguishing Chiappe's hopes for a fourth world title ahead of round 5 in the UAE. Torrente's luck ran short at the season's penultimate Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi, the American only managing to salvage 5 points, as Thani Al-Khamzi took the historic victory, becoming the first local to win in Abu Dhabi. The title race for the World Championship came down to the wire in a heart-stopping showdown between the 3 Team Abu Dhabi teammates. Eric Stark took the Grand Prix win, but it was not enough for the Swede. With Al-Khamzi failing to finish the race, a third place was all Sean Torrente needed to seal his first ever World Championship title, capping an unprecedented year of dominance by Team Abu Dhabi, shutting down the year-end podium and winning the World Team Championship. A painful year for Alex Carella, who failed to defend his title and ended up finishing only 1 race in the season. Torrente world number 1, Stark runner-up, and Thani Al-Khamzi ending the season 3rd, with 4th and 5th place going to CTIC F1 Shenzhen China drivers Peter Marin and Philippe Chiappe. 18 drivers from 9 teams representing 11 countries will renew rivalries in the season opener in Dammam at the championship's 280th Grand Prix, which marks a return to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for the first time in 15 years. Of the 18 drivers, 3 are multiple champions and boast 9 titles between them. Alex Carella with 4, Philipp Schiap with 3, and Sami Celio 2, whilst 9 of the School of 2019 are Grand Prix winners and amongst 12 who have made it onto the second and third steps of the podium. All eyes in Saudi Arabia will no doubt be on last year's team and drivers champions, Team Abu Dhabi. Team Abu Dhabi part ways with last year's world runner-up Eric Stark as they go into the Grand Prix of Saudi Arabia with a 2-driver lineup, newly crowned world champion Sean Torrente and world number 3 Thani Al-Khamzi. For Torrente, finally, after all the hard work and perseverance, he'll be driving the number 1 boat in 2019.
I think it was an awesome year, and so excited to do it again, hopefully, and it's so awesome to see my boat with the number 1 on it. I've been working real hard for that for a long time, and my motivation is the same, to win the championship. The only difference now, I know I can do it because I've actually done it, so hopefully we can do it again and go back-to-back and be the first American in history to do it, and I believe the first team from Abu Dhabi to do it for sure.
Emirati Thani Al-Khamzi came frustratingly close to the world title last year, so close he could taste it, and he's more determined than ever to bring one home for his country. Following a year of mixed results, CTIC F1 Shenzhen China team ended last season solid runners-up in the world team standings behind Team Abu Dhabi, and they continue with the same lineup in round 1, with 3-time world champion and 9-time Grand Prix winner Philipp Schiap leading the charge, hoping to make up for a lackluster 2018 season by his standards, in which he finished world number 5. But Schiap's teammate Peter Marin had an outstanding year and outshone his 3-time world champion teammate, picking up 2 podiums and 3 top 5 finishes to indicate a possible changing of the guard inside the team. For Team Amravati, who finished on the year-end team standings podium with some great results by Jonas Andersson and Eric Eden, it's business as usual with no change in lineups as a Swedish-based team seeks to build on its strengths in the new season and get 2019 off on the right foot with a good result in Saudi. Emirates Racing finished the 2018 season in 4th in the team standings as the only female Grand Prix winner in the history of the sport, Marit Stromoy, ended the year ranked 6th, and she goes to Dammam aiming for a second career Grand Prix win in her 13th season on the tour. The Norwegian driver is racing once again alongside Polish driver Bartek Marszalek, who has on occasion shown he has the pace and is capable of qualifying in the top 3 and challenging the lead runners. 2-time world champion Sami Celio sets out on his bid for a 3rd title with backing from the Emirate of Sharjah after signing a multi-year cooperation agreement with Sharjah International Marine Sports Club, and for the 8th year will be partnered by fellow Finnish countryman Philip Roms in the rebranded Sharjah team.
Yeah, it's the new partnership with the Sharjah, so we have the Sharjah colors now with the Emirates, so we are proud for that and we will push maximum for that.
Maverick F1 Racing's Cedric Deguine starts his 3rd consecutive full term in the championship following his debut in 2004 and 2 cameo appearances at the Grand Prix of France in 2015. He's joined by fellow Frenchman Béranger Robert, who makes just his 2nd start following a solitary debut outing in France in 2017. Looking to put a tough season behind them and start afresh is no doubt Victory Team. The legendary Dubai-based team struggled in 2018 as defending 2017 world champion Alex Carella only managed to complete 1 race, while Ahmed Al-Hamali failed to get a podium all year. Al-Hamali is a determined racer, qualifying on pole 10 times, winning 7 times with 12 further podium finishes, and last season battled to 5 straight points finishes before a big crash in Abu Dhabi in qualifying forced him out of the final 2 races. 4-time world champion Alex Carella has one of the most impressive records in the championship. From 58 starts, he has finished on the podium 30 times, winning 15. Victory Team is led by 4-time world champion Scott Gilman, who 15 years ago fought off 22 drivers to capture victory in the last Grand Prix of Saudi Arabia. It wasn't an easy day for him, as current Blaze Performance driver and team principal Italian Francesco Cantando came within 1.25 seconds of Gilman. Francesco Cantando is the most experienced driver on the tour and kicks off his 24th season in Dammam.
15 years ago, I got here and I raced and I was just 2nd. This year I must be 1st.
Cantando is joined at Blaze Performance by American Greg Foster, who is highly regarded and one of the most experienced racers on the North American Tour.
I've been racing for 30 years in Formula One boats. I started when I was 14 years old, racing a hydro. Loving it here. It's always been on my bucket list to come to Saudi Arabia and race this European Formula One circuit.
Portuguese outfit F1 Atlantic are again led by team principal and experienced driver Duarte Benavente, and they have a new team member, Italian Alberto Comparato.
I just want to make the much more experience I can get because it's my first race. I didn't test a lot at home, but I will try to do my best.
The Grand Prix of Abu Dhabi Circuit in Dammam is a long and technically challenging course, 2,230 meters total length, offering many passing opportunities, although it could be the roughest circuit all season long, demanding experience, technical ability, and a good dose of courage. Former multiple UIM F1H2O World Champion Jonathan Jones gives us some insight into the technology behind an F1H2O boat.
There's more than meets the eye, you know, when it comes into the technology that's built into some of these boats these days. And of course, every team is looking at ways in which they can beat the other teams out on the water. Let's take a look at some of these ideas and how these teams feel that they can get the boats to run a lot stronger, a lot faster on the water during the race. Propellers to a boat are pretty much like gears are to a car. And as you can see, there are different sizes, different diameters. Some are longer this way, longer that way. Some have pointed areas here, some have round areas. So basically on a car, as you're going along, the gears, as you change them, the faster you go. It's quite different on a boat because on a boat, propellers, you only have one gear. So what you try and do is select the right size propeller for the circuit. Now, if you put a bigger propeller on, that means you're going to go faster, but it means you're going to accelerate a little bit slower. And you've got to really find that fine line in getting the right size propeller, pretty much like the right gear on a car, the right size propeller to put onto the boat. And it is quite a fine art, and if you get the right propeller and the right balance on the boat, there's a good chance you're going to win the race. So testing on the circuit prior to the race is very important because that is how you determine the right size propeller that you're going to use for the race itself. And sometimes, it's happened to me, you get halfway through the race and you realize you've picked the wrong propeller, but unfortunately you're stuck with it and there's nothing you can do. So this is a typical engine that we use for powerboat racing in Formula One now. It's a two-stroke engine, 2.5 litres, and it's a V6 configuration. When these engines come from the factory, they're probably producing around 200 horsepower, but then the engineers start working on them. And as you can see from this powerhead, they completely redesign the intake system. This is where the air goes into the engine. They use a far lighter flywheel. Inside the engine itself, they use special pistons and conrods, and they balance everything. So it goes from about 200 to 400 horsepower, and also it increases the torque of the engine, which helps with acceleration. And all of this in a very, very light package, probably weighing something in the region of 75 kilos. Another area that's improved immensely over the last 4 to 5 years is battery power. And these batteries are used to start the engine. The faster you can start the engine, the faster the boat's going to crank up and go down the straight. And what we've done is we've changed from the old lead acid batteries into lithium ion batteries. Give you an idea, one of these batteries used to weigh about 12 to 14 kilos. They're now down to just over 2 kilos and pushing out more power. These are now called lithium-ion batteries, and they're the latest technology, which of course saves a lot of weight in the boat, and the more weight you can save in the boat, the faster it's going to go. And of course, I love the ideas that Emirates Racing incorporate into the boat to help the improvement of the boat when it's on the water. Just one small little thing that does make a big difference. As you can see, there's a hole here, and the actual air is pressurized off the deck into this hole. It then works its way into a large box, and from that box, the air then actually is pressurized out underneath the boat on the running pad. And what it does, it creates a fine layer of air just between the bottom of the boat and the water, which cuts down the friction. And the less friction you've got, the faster the boat's going to go. Another cool area that are on some of these boats, but not on all, is around the crash box area. As you can see, you've got a very, very flat area here, and it does create an element of downforce. But what the DSC, the works team, have done, they've actually got a fin which comes up the side here and runs right the way through. What happens then is that as the air actually runs across here, instead of escaping down, that fin actually holds the air in there, which creates an element of downward pressure. This creates stability, so the boat doesn't rock from side to side, and also it puts an element of pressure on the front, which saves them putting ballast to try and hold the boat down. And of course, the lighter the boat, the faster it's going to go.
The Rebellion official qualifying would not be run over 3 sessions as usual, but through a 1.5-hour free practice and qualifying session in which the fastest times would determine the starting lineup for the Grand Prix of Saudi Arabia.
For the weather condition has been bad, so we couldn't run the time trials yesterday. So today we have time trials and free practice together. This is first time we are able to go in the water for all the teams and all the boats, so let's see how it goes.
Teams tried to make the most of the conditions, trying to keep their boats and their drivers safe while pushing as fast as they could for their fastest lap times, but it was a fine balance and a struggle. Blaze Performance driver Greg Foster's Blaze boat took a hit in qualifying, his left sponson heavily damaged, and the American driver struggled to get his boat back to the pontoon in time to avoid sinking. They just made it in, the boat was quickly lifted out of the water, and Blaze Performance team would have a long night ahead of them.
Hardly going anywhere, and all of a sudden just came over and it nosed in a very little bit, but nothing bad. And all of a sudden I noticed there's water coming off of it, but nothing that shouldn't have happened.
Well, it's really rough. And now it's only one boat out. You can't drive in this. It's too rough.
And the Rebellion official qualifying is cancelled. The conditions proved too rough. Race day, the Grand Prix of Saudi Arabia. Teams and drivers completed final preparations, hoping for a respite to the rough and windy conditions.
We've been in the water with the driver's rep, officer of the day, and OIM commissioner. Conditions are not feasible for racer. We're going to put the boats on the water just to try again if the situation is going to change and we are able to do the race or not.
Teams headed out on the pontoon with a chance conditions may improve, getting their boats on the water and their drivers and setups ready, testing the circuit to see what may be in store for them in Dammam. Hundreds of spectators and fans took their places in the stands, eager to see the first UIM F1H2O Grand Prix in the kingdom in 15 years. Also in attendance was His Royal Highness Prince Nayef bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, the governor of the Eastern region, as he greeted and conversed with drivers before the race. With official Rebellion qualifying unable to be completed due to poor weather and water conditions, the starting lineup for the Grand Prix of Saudi Arabia would be according to last season's World Championship standings, with newly crowned World Champion Sean Torrente in pole position, then beside him Thani Al-Kamzi in P2, Peter Marin starting in P3.
It's going to be difficult for me to maintain a pace in the water. It's very rough, so it's actually very difficult to be at the front because you don't know how fast you need to go. But we'll do our best to keep everything together and get it home and get a win and get home.
Marit Stromoy, the hard-charging Norwegian, knows she's close enough to aim for a podium spot.
No, we had a lot of people here yesterday. I think there was many thousand people here came to have pit walks down the pit, and there was a lot of women, local women, and they were cheering for me, so that's good. So let's hope we can do a good race and make the women proud.
The boats are lowered into the water and lined up along the starting pontoon. The rough conditions mean that officials may opt for a rolling start to the race as opposed to a pontoon start. Ultimately, it's the race director's call. Sami Celio of Sharjah team was the first to head out and test the waters. He has had his share of crashes in rough conditions, and he wants to make sure he knows what he's in for here. The boats finally take to the water as the thousands who have gathered enjoy the spectacle, seeing these machines out on the sea for the first time, hoping they will have a race on their hands. The onboard of Sean Torrente there as the drivers head out for the customary parade lap, his head knocking around the cockpit, with the Osprey paced boat leading the way. There are a lot of drivers with over a decade of experience here who have driven in every condition imaginable and who have had to negotiate some very rough circuits, dealing with all sorts of waves and currents on salt and fresh water, and these drivers know what conditions are raceable and what conditions aren't, conscious of the line between bravery and foolhardiness, knowing when it's time to pack it in. Torrente gets his speed up, trying to increase the pace to get himself above the waves and over the troughs. But it's too much, the waters are too rough for him, and Torrente heads back to the pontoon. And race director Luis Ribeiro calls the race off. The conditions too dangerous. With safety always the preeminent concern, the racers need to curb their instincts and rein themselves back onto land.
You know, the problem is that we have long waves, and long waves is like a slide, and you get used to the sky. It's a problem. Till it's choppy is not a problem. Unfortunately, no. We know this is a weather that never happened here in Saudi Arabia, and unfortunately, I must say that it's not raceable. So I'm sorry for the crowd. It's very nice people. They give us a lot of support. It was nice to be here, and I hope to come here again here 10 times per year. It's a nice place to be.
I'm very proud the people are coming and sitting for hours and hours waiting for the race. I'm saying thank you guys, and very sorry at the same time because you don't enjoy the race. We'll make it next time better and better.
It was great to come for the first time. It's a shame we can't give the crowd a good show because there's been so many people here. So excited about the race. The crowds yesterday were amazing. The enthusiasm for the sport, to learn, to understand what we do. All the kids that are being exposed to it at such a young age is great because those are powerboat racing fans in the future, which will grow the sport how we need it to be grown. So, like I said, it's been an amazing experience as far as all the people go. I just wish we could give them more.
The whole atmosphere is great, the place is great. Only shame is the water conditions, but the crowds, the people, visitors, everything has been top class here. It has been.
Yeah, I would like to say big thanks to all the people from Arabia Saudi for coming, for interesting about powerboat racing, and was really nice to meet everybody yesterday and to share our passion.
Everything here is number one. The tent, the media, the local Saudi Arabian. Is very beautiful, like my second home, Saudi Arabia.
Drivers, teams, crews, and their families put the frustration of weather conditions behind them to relax and enjoy Saudi hospitality with a sumptuous gala dinner. President of the Water Sport and Diving Federation, His Royal Highness Prince Sultan bin Fahad bin Salman Al Saud, welcomed the UIM F1H2O family to Dammam, highlighting the importance of the sport.
We always ask ourselves as sports people, what is the ultimate goal of sports? I find that it's to bring people together, to bring people from different backgrounds and cultures in one platform. When you look at the families that were walking at the pits and looking at the boats, they got to meet everyone here. We are all from diverse backgrounds from different countries. They were very, very happy, and I think that achieved the ultimate goal. So I would like to thank everyone here. Thank you very much. Thank you for being fantastic. Thank you for being so supportive of us, although we didn't race, but I think we did achieve our goal and our ultimate goal, so thank you very much. Shukran lakum wa bitawfiq inshallah.
See you at the next race in Portimao, Portugal.